This is crazy. It's Matt and Mark's top 10 towing tips, thanks to MDC.
Starting with number 1, some tips on driving.
Tip number 1, always be smooth and consistent with your steering and braking inputs. Remember, you've got a fair bit of weight behind you pushing your vehicle around, so just be smooth and steady on your braking, accelerating and steering inputs.
Tip number 2 is one of my pet hates. It's something you've always got to check yourself to make sure it's done correctly. But when you talk to the experts, they've got some tips to really help. This one is all about the jockey wheel.
So jockey wheels are how you level off your van, so they're super important. One big thing with jockey wheels are keep them as low as you can to the ground if you are moving them around at home. If you do connect it to your vehicle, you do got to make sure that those pins are connected when you are taking the weight off the wheel, and you do need to rely on those 2 pins to take the load. So make sure that they are in properly. Another cool tip is make sure that the tyre is working horizontal to the van. So if you do that, you don't have to worry about getting exact to the mill when you're reversing to hitch up, because if you don't make it exact, you can easily push the drawbar left and right just to meet that little bit.
Tip number 3, always ensure that you have full, clear, unimpeded vision down the side of your camper van or caravan or camper trailer. That is required by law to ensure that you actually have an unimpeded view.
There are 2 ways to see behind. 1 is your rear mounted camera, and 2 is a good set of towing mirrors. When you purchase an off-road caravan or camper, of course it's going to have fantastic tyres and suspension to make going off-road a breeze. But don't forget the hitch. What you've got and how it works is just as important. So here are some tips from the experts.
Number 4, guys, make sure when you are hitching up, your hitch is securely locked when you do press it. Now there's lots of hitches out in the market. We do camper trailers, we do caravans, so there's lots of options. The biggest one we use at the moment is the Cruisemaster DO35 V3R. Now with that, they've got a little safety feature, which means the lid won't actually go on unless the button is locked. So no matter what, always make sure that you press the button and you lock it before you take off. And always remember to put the lid on, because if you don't put the lid on, you're going to get all that dust and all that mud into that system, and that's just going to be a mess, and you're going to have to constantly clean it. So keep the cap on, you're not going to have any issues.
Tip number 5 from me is be aware of your weights. Get an understanding of your GCM, GVM, your brake towing capacity, your GTM. Always ensure that you are within all of those, because if you break any one of those, your holiday can be ruined very quickly. A couple of options for you to get your weights checked is some service stations and road houses these days have weigh bridges where you can go and pay a fee and weigh your vehicle yourself. Or alternatively, you can have professionals do that for you, and they will be able to assist and regulate your weights and move them around accordingly to ensure that you are compliant with all the required numbers that you need to be.
Number 6 is crossing your chains when you're hitching up. That is super important to do, and you'll hear that from any 4-wheel-drive expert or anyone who is used to towing caravans. That will reduce the length of the chains, but also create a cradle. So if you were to come attached, you've always got that extra little bit of support.
Now you guys are seasoned towers and you all know how important it is to connect your breakaway device. Now that's got to go to a part of the chassis separate to where your chains go. People are always concerned about having the right amount of horsepower to tow the load that they're pulling behind them. But how about when you need to stop it?
Tip number 7 from me is also check and ensure your brake controller is working. Every morning before you leave site, always just give it a quick test, give it a push to ensure that it is working, and then we'll override in an emergency situation. Hitting the emergency override will reduce the sway and bring the van back into line very quickly, so you need to be able to access that instantly.
Safe towing all comes down to your tow ball weight. But do you know how to measure it? Do you know how to control it, change it, and make sure it is optimal for your towing setup? Let's find out more.
Number 8, guys, you got to think about when you're towing, what have you got in your van, okay? It's very easy to bring the tear rate up and bring the tear rate down. So think before you go how much weight is in the front on your ball weight, okay? So ball weight is very important. If you can get your ball weight right, you're going to have a way better tow and you're going to have a smooth, safe travel. So the rule of thumb is make sure you got 10% of total tear of the caravan. If you can get as close to that, you're going to have a nice smooth line.
Towing is a massive responsibility. Not only are you dragging something behind your vehicle, but you're loaded up with extra gear, you've got your family on board, and there are a stack of other road users around you. Now, if you're not experienced, if you've never towed before, it's important that you get the right advice to set yourself up for a safe and exciting off-road adventure. So to find out more, I'm going to throw you over to Matt, who certainly knows all the information.
Tip number 9 from me. If you're new to caravanning or camper trailers or hybrids or any description and you've never towed anything of this size before, I would strongly recommend doing a towing education course as well. The skills and the knowledge that those professionals can give you will hold you in good stead, and it can be invaluable to ensure you have a safe and enjoyable trip.
Now that is sound advice. I recommend that you do go and do a course. But remember, in between courses, training and your own experience, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel where you'll find out all of the expert towing tips and plenty more. Now guys, one of the tips you'll be given very often on our site is all about tyre pressures. Why should you let them down? When do you pump them up? Let's cross over to Mark to find out more.
Number 10, guys, tyre pressures. Anytime you go off grid, or if you go on the sand, or if you're going through the mud, you are going to adjust your tyre pressures to suit the environment. So every environment is different. Make sure you know what you need to do when you leave and bring them back up and bring them down accordingly.
Well, a huge thank you to Matt and Mark, our local experts, for those towing tips. Now you guys have probably got more questions of your own, so whack those in the comments below. And we might try and catch up with Mark and Matt on another time for another set of towing tips. Well, that's it guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow our channel, and whack comments down below to tell us what you want to see next. I'll see you then. Family.
Do it! Just do it! Yes, you can! Just do it!
Hey guys, don't forget to subscribe.